on this computer. So I just wanted to, I'm Yeşim Erez with Admittance Education. We have several team members here. And I wanted to welcome everybody and thank everybody for spending time with us this evening. But I wanted to thank Jared specifically because I was really excited to see him at a conference earlier this last year. And through COVID and after COVID, so many of my students have really enjoyed Inspirit AI because this has been a solid program that teaches a very fundamental skill that's required across disciplines in a fun and enjoyable way. And they were a huge help through COVID when we were all stuck at home and really helping our student base enhance their skill set. So we're very appreciative. And I hear you've added a lot of things since then, like research. So really excited about hearing that. And I thought maybe Deniz Hanım might want to introduce herself since we're colleagues and she works out of Ankara as well.
Yeah. As Yeşim says, I'm from Ankara. I'm doing college counseling for high school students and the students after getting their degrees from undergraduate. So thank you Yeşim for organizing this nice and fruitful event. I'm also interested in AI as my students are. Yes, I'm looking forward, Jared, to just do the presentation.
Okay, thank you. Jared, the floor is yours. I'll let everybody in. And if anybody wants to ask questions at the end, and if you choose to ask it in Turkish, I'm happy to translate.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Yeşim, for organizing this great event. And thank you to everyone for taking time out of what I'm sure is a busy evening to hear a little bit more about recent advances in AI and machine learning technology. And toward the end, I'll just chat briefly about some of the educational programs that we at InspiritAI offer. I guess just by way of kind of a quick introduction, I'm Jared, Director of Programs at Inspirit. In terms of my own background, I've been in education for my entire career. I work in kind of San Francisco in the Bay Area, where InspiritAI was founded just outside of Stanford about 4 years ago. In terms of my own kind of educational background, I did my undergraduate work at Harvard and then my graduate work at Cambridge and Berkeley. And I actually come to AI from a somewhat unique perspective. I'm kind of a literature and philosophy person. And the way I was introduced to artificial intelligence was actually in the context of literary analysis. It had long been the practice for, about 100 years of, just kind of looking at a poem or an individual novel and trying to figure out how it produces meaning. And then thanks to a lot of the work that came out of the Stanford English department, literary analysis has been completely transformed. Now the standard practice is what they call distant reading, which is a matter of aggregating like hundreds of thousands of literary artifacts, putting them through machine learning algorithms to suss out meaning that would otherwise be inaccessible if you just looked at kind of one text at a time. So even though I don't come from like an engineering or kind of hard scientific background, it kind of goes to show you how many fields AI is kind of impacting these days. So I'm going to try to share my screen for a minute. I just have some slides that will sort of help organize, part of what we're discussing today. I hope everyone can kind of see this, preparing young minds for an AI-powered future. And that's kind of really the focus of, my brief remarks today is, kind of how AI is revolutionizing the world around us, how it's impacting industries, academic disciplines, and professional domains, and ways that young students, can start getting access to some of the technical training that goes into the work of artificial intelligence. So, I think what we'll first kind of talk about is why AI is so important. We'll move a little bit into how AI intersects with both preparation for college and the experience of studying at university. We'll talk a little bit about what it's like to actually work with AI in kind of a professional or industrial context. What AI research looks like, because it's a little bit different than other forms of scientific inquiry. And then toward the latter half of our talk today, we'll just discuss a little bit about what high school students can do kind of right now and through their high school careers to prepare for AI and computer science at leading universities and in careers. We'll look a little bit at kind of our small group and one-on-one research programs, and then we'll end, as you seem indicated, with any questions that you all have. I think AI, in terms of its importance, in recent weeks and months, we've been hearing a lot in the media about ChatGPT, about DALL-E 2, some of the real interesting innovations in what they call generative AI, something that produces words or artifacts. But AI is everywhere around us. It's responsible for much of the technology surrounding autonomous vehicles. Where I live in San Francisco, I see autonomous driverless cars whizzing past me, 10 times an hour. A lot of that is fueled by what's called computer vision, which is kind of a subdomain of artificial intelligence. Spotify and Netflix movie recommendation systems are all kind of run by machine learning algorithms that kind of learn your preferences over time and then spit back out to you kind of customized recommendations. It's responsible for things like Siri and Alexa, the ability to kind of recognize voice commands, interpret them, and then return to the user with some kind of audio input. And in terms of AI education itself, it really is the defining technology of our times. Artificial intelligence is powering really radical innovation across all industries, education, healthcare, transportation, policy and government, even things like sports and finance and fashion. It's already being applied to almost every discipline out there. So almost regardless of a career path that you might be pursuing, AI will most certainly be a significant part of it. Doctors, for example, use artificial intelligence in innumerable ways to diagnose diseases through X-rays. Journalists use it to detect fake news. Governments use it for, the efficient dissemination of food supplies during, let's say, refugee crises. And we feel really strongly at Inspirit that, this generation in particular really needs to be equipped to handle like the technical and ethical challenges that modern AI is going to continue to pose. I kind of mentioned our origins at Stanford, a luminary in the field. His name is Andrew Ng. He was one of the founders of Coursera. He's one of the founders of deep learning AI. He wrote just a couple of years ago, just as electricity transformed almost everything a century ago. Today, I have a hard time thinking of an industry I don't think AI will transform in the next several years. You can kind of see the explosion of interest and investment in AI and machine learning technology, looking both at kind of academic production. This first graph has kind of the number of peer-reviewed papers in different fields from, let's say the 1990s through more or less the present day. And you can kind of see a huge uptick in the last 10 years for AI papers within computer science. Even though research in general in computer science had been increasing, there was really a startling spike in AI research, since 2013, 2014, and this trend really continues to this day. You see this in terms of AI startups. Every day I read reports of kind of a new round of funding that's subsidizing kind of a really interesting AI and machine learning startup. So this is really powering a lot of advances in both kind of academia as well as professional arenas. But a little bit closer to like the experience of a high schooler who's kind of contemplating, studying AI or machine learning, or who is maybe interested in a field that is undergoing transformation by means of AI technologies. Just kind of a few, and this is kind of an example from Stanford, where we were founded, the majors that actually intersect with AI. It's not just computer science, but things like management science and engineering, biomedical informatics, philosophy, as I mentioned before, literature, political science, economics. AI is really an applied science. It can be applied to almost anything to try to drive advances in the field. And that's, for me, one of the most exciting things about AI is how it kind of pollinates and makes productive all of the domains that kind of surround it. Even more recently, there's been a lot of movement in kind of at least US universities, and also those kind of, in Western Europe as well, launching AI and data science programs. Carnegie Mellon, as some of you may know, was actually the first major research institution to offer an undergraduate major in artificial intelligence. And since that development, a number of institutions have followed suit. MIT poured about $1 billion into an institute for ethical applications of AI. Stanford, just a few months ago, launched a special data science program that overlaps considerably with the work of AI and machine learning. And this, by the way, is why we founded Inspirit. AI is kind of everywhere at the university level. It's almost expected that students are at least conversant in AI technology by the time they arrive at university. But the problem we discovered is that AI is almost nowhere at the K-12 level. And that's why we founded Inspirit, was to give younger students, middle schoolers, high schoolers, early access to the technology defining our times. And I think one of the most interesting developments in AI is also kind of at the intersection of the humanities and artificial intelligence. So Stanford, too, always kind of at the cutting edge of curricular and academic advancements, has actually created this human-centered AI institute at the university that's all about utilizing AI to improve the human condition. We see similar interdisciplinary initiatives at the Center for Computer Research in music and acoustics. So kind of using AI and machine learning to generate new forms of artistic expression. They have at Stanford a computational policy lab that sits at the nexus of like AI and government intervention. And again, Stanford is just one example of many leading research institutions prioritizing AI in its curriculum and in its student research. AI can apply to, your major in a ton of different ways. When it comes to, let's say, environmental sustainability, AI can help farmers figure out exactly where to plant crops and for how long to kind of optimize food output. As I mentioned briefly before, AI is used almost everywhere in healthcare today, whether to detect diseases like skin cancer or pneumonia, or to kind of, peek inside the body in really novel ways. A lot of economists are starting to use AI and machine learning to do things like, predict changes in the stock market, to be able to do much longer term forecasting. And we also see it really across the board in the humanities, whether it's using AI to generate new forms of art or to peek into our past. But I wanted to take kind of a closer look in particular at how AI has been kind of revolutionizing medicine and healthcare. A lot of what AI does, it can help discover new drugs. For example, you may have kind of heard or read about the project at DeepMind AlphaFold, which is all about kind of getting new drugs researched, discovered, and into the market. AI can help with extraordinarily complex processes, like looking inside the human genome. And it, of course, can supplement physicians' diagnostic procedures and help detect disorders and illnesses of all kinds. When it comes to environmental sustainability, AI is great at automating agricultural practices. It can do things like detect and predict pest invasions to allow farmers and curators of the land to sort of protect their crops. It can help identify plant diseases. There are also some really, really interesting things that are happening at kind of the intersection of AI and politics and the environment. So AI, through things like computer vision and acoustic monitoring analysis, can detect, for example, poachers in the Amazon rainforest. It can actually assist in like the prosecution of those who illegally deforest places like the Amazon. AI in economics for me is one of the most sort of exciting applications of the technology, in the sense that because economics is run entirely through data analysis, AI can do a lot of work in that field. It can assess poverty levels to help government decision makers more efficiently allocate resources equitably. This right here, this little bit of art is a nighttime map that utilizes satellite data to predict consumption expenditures, like who is going to be consuming what. And this helps a lot with things like smoothing out global supply chains. AI can apply to, the imaginative arts, things like actually generating new forms of art. What this is right here is just a very basic example of what's called, style transfer between images. This is something, it's a kind of a branch of AI called transfer learning, where a machine learns the style of one image and applies it to another. If anyone's here has like just played around with like filters on like Facebook and Instagram, that's exactly what this technology is. It's just used for a recreational purpose. So basically you would train a machine to say like, all right, machine, this is a cat. It's a lot more complicated than that. It requires terabytes and terabytes of data for it to learn that it's a cat. And then you can say, okay, machine, this is, a starry night. It learns that, and then you can command a machine to say, I want a cat to appear in a starry night composition, and AI can actually transfer style from one image to another. Now for the experience of kind of what it's actually like to work with AI and kind of within an AI field. I think it's a common thought among a lot of people that, one can only interact with AI if one is a computer programmer. And of course, if one becomes a software engineer or a programmer, one will absolutely be utilizing the resources of AI and machine learning. But we're also seeing this across the board, whether you're going to go into government, into philosophy, if you're going to go into more like the management of teams that are handling technical projects. Everyone it needs at least kind of a working knowledge of what AI and machine learning are all about. I think especially for, all of the students and the parents of students in this virtual room, as you contemplate moving through university, potentially moving into supervisory or managerial roles, even if you're not directly interacting with the technology, that proficiency is going to be at a premium when it comes to landing, let's say, college internships and kind of early career job opportunities. To give you just a couple of examples of, how AI legislators, as well as ethicists, go about their work, a lot of what they're interested in, which harmonizes with our goals at Inspirit, is to ensure that AI is improving people's lives. So for example, in this, kind of this particular case, it would be a matter of, okay, we have self-driving technologies, we have cars on the road, but then a human, like someone needs to train that car to avoid people rather than run into them. It's kind of an obvious example of like some of like the ethical questions, but I think other things that are interesting, even within the same example of like, okay, if you are an ethicist programming a self-driving car, how do you help the car make very difficult decisions? Like if there's going to be an accident, if it's unavoidable, what or whom should the car hit to avoid, further damage to everything and everyone else on the road? These are the sorts of questions that actually have to be answered by people in the work of programming artificial intelligence. I think AI also really impacts the planning of things like the job market. There's certainly something of an automation fallout of kind of machines taking over the work of the human labor force. But I think, precisely for that reason, it's terribly important to be learning the technology that enables one to meaningfully interact with it and not be left behind as the world really moves to an AI-powered future. So I think that's something that legislators and ethicists in AI are thinking about all the time, is like, how do we offset the fact that human jobs will be lost with the fact that new jobs will be created within the industries of AI and machine learning? I think, back to kind of the realm of healthcare and the delivery of medicine, like what if an AI system gives a patient a wrong diagnosis that's life-threatening? AI can kind of think through, I think these are a lot of the really interesting ethical issues that go into programming artificial intelligence. As I'll talk about in another few minutes, at Inspirit, beyond helping students become technically proficient practitioners of AI technology, we also really want students to develop an ethical compass and an ethical way of thinking about the implementation of AI so that they're really helping create a positive impact. AI research is a little bit different than other forms of scientific inquiry. It's different than what happens in a chemistry lab or a biology or a physics laboratory. For example, kind of in AI and healthcare, a lot of our own instructors who actually teach students directly at Inspirit are doing things like developing predictive machine learning models that help hospitals manage which patients can be safely discharged, which patients need to kind of stay in the hospital. How can we create more palliative care opportunities so we don't overload the hospital system? Other applications might be developing AI-powered smart bandages that actually help patients do a lot of the work of medical recovery without actually having to visit a doctor, because the more people who visit doctors, the higher healthcare costs climb. I think one of the things that's really cool about any emerging technology, but in particular AI and machine learning, is how academia, like places like Stanford or MIT, actually interface with industry to create new professional possibilities. And it's kind of a two-way street. A lot of the great research coming out of these top AI programs contributes directly to industry breakthroughs. And then, industries like places like Meta, Google, Adobe, Microsoft, anyone who's really serious about the work of AI actually have their own AI research divisions. So we're seeing academia speak directly to industry, industry developing its own internal think tanks to really advance AI technology. Now, all of that was just really to talk about AI kind of transforming disciplines and domains around us. Now, I think closer to our purposes today, what can high school students do right now to prepare for that AI-powered future? And I think there are a lot of great preliminary steps that one can take. These days, the most popular programming language for AI is also the most user-friendly. It's called Python. It's what our programs are based in. And there are some really great Python learning opportunities at places like Code Academy, Coursera, tons of kind of, Python courses that you could take asynchronously. Definitely take a first course. That could be with us, that could be with kind of someone else outside. Inspirit actually has a lot of super accessible blogs that are great for students new to AI who kind of want to be able to understand it kind of at that level. Things like machine learning is fun, ML mastery towards data science. When this kind of webinar is over, we can certainly follow up with this slide deck, including all of these kind of suggested resources. Kaggle.com is really great for data sets. So, it could be a place to kind of get inspiration for the sort of work one might want to do in AI by seeing what the available data sets look like. Now, one way of kind of engaging with AI education really as soon as this spring or summer might be through our high school program that we call AI Scholars. AI Scholars is 100% live and interactive and project-based. Students work in really small cohorts of maybe 4 or 5 other students per one instructor to learn AI fundamentals and develop a socially impactful project. So, just because of our origins kind of at Stanford and Silicon Valley, we're really bringing the most sort of recent developments in this field to help students in kind of 8th through 12th grades apply AI for social good. So the program itself, whether it's over spring, summer, fall, consists of 10 sessions that are 2.5 hours apiece. Students are in kind of global classrooms, so you might have a couple students from Turkey, one from Mexico, one from Canada, one from Abu Dhabi, which is great because it means that you're benefiting from perspectives that you otherwise wouldn't have had, if you were just kind of learning in person in Turkey. All of our programs are taught by our team of Stanford, MIT, Ivy League, kind of top university graduates and students. If you are like me and you don't have much of a computer science background, let's say you're a total beginner. Let's say you struggle to turn on a computer to save your life. This is a program for you. We have different cohorts. So we have like beginner, intermediate, and advanced, kind of depending on your level of programming proficiency and computer science exposure. And as you could probably tell from my earlier remarks, in our programs, we really do emphasize interdisciplinary learning. For example, applying like computer science and engineering to art. Because AI is just an applied science, almost every application of it kind of has an interdisciplinary flavor to it. I think just some of the really cool things that happen in our small group AI Scholars program. The entire second half of the experience is devoted to a small group project. That might be around discovering exoplanets by harnessing machine learning. It might be detecting skin cancer or pneumonia using real patient data. It might be improving disaster relief efforts or sustainability. We actually have about 25 different projects across more than 10 domains that you can choose when you enroll in the program. In addition to kind of developing AI fundamentals, Python coding skills, doing a project, we also intersperse interactive workshops on preparing for AI in careers and colleges. A lot of our instructors have significant industry experience in addition to their AI research experience. And so we offer kind of spotlight talks to hear about what folks working in, for example, like autonomous driving or healthcare or chat applications have to say about their current research. And then we also offer some seminars during the program around how to prepare and apply to leading sort of CS and AI institutions, especially in North America. And those seminars are kind of led by the same top university graduates who themselves successfully navigated the path to elite admissions. We'll take a quick look at some very successful Stanford admissions essays and talk a little bit about how to address the AI project building experience in the context of one's college application essays or interviews. The way that it works, in our live online program, as I mentioned, it's a really small, like 5 or 6 students per one instructor. The experience is completely interactive and live. There is no asynchronous time. There is no asynchronous content. In the first half of the program, we're introducing students to foundational AI concepts and coding practices. So, a lot of the activity in the first half involves applying new coding skills to various applications of AI. Part of the reason that we offer this in a small group format is to enable students to work closely with peers, both in kind of the coding instruction in the first half and in the small group social impact project in the second. We really look at our teachers more as mentors in this program, in the sense that, they're really excited about inspiring students to kind of wield AI for social good. So there's a great opportunity to work very closely with them, have them understand kind of where you're coming from. And then we have all kinds of, in addition to the core content, kind of design thinking games. We spend some time on the ethics and social complexities around AI, as I mentioned, pre-college workshops. And then a portion of the final day is devoted to a project showcase, where each project group presents to family and friends and all of the other project groups to get, to understand kind of what the other groups are working on, expand your sort of grasp on AI and how it's intersecting domains, and really to celebrate the learning that you'll have done. And then after the program is over, we make a lot of resources available. So if you wanted to work on an additional project kind of on your own after Scholars is over, that's all kind of available for you. In terms of, the project itself, I mentioned just kind of a few really popular ones. It might be like discovering truly fake news and truly fake websites to improve public discourse. It might be utilizing computer vision to detect and prevent drivers from becoming distracted on the road in the service of public safety. We have a really interesting project at the intersection of AI and education that helps teachers better understand their students' emotional reactions during classroom learning by detecting various emotional states. AI and medical imaging, we actually have a few projects here to improve disease diagnosis. A project, for example, that we put together, you see at the top of our talk mentioned COVID. This is something that we kind of developed during COVID and has become even newly relevant now that all of these variants are kind of circulating globally. This is kind of, what our COVID prediction, sort of like tracking COVID spread and predicting where it might go next. These are the sort of just movements of that project. First, like visualizing and understanding the genome causing the disorder, then predicting the area that a new genome came from. And in the final analysis, understanding different clusters of strains, all kind of powered by AI and machine learning. And so just kind of, overall for AI scholars, it's a hugely interactive and project-based introduction to AI. So in the first part, you would learn about things like computer vision, deep learning, reinforcement learning, recommendation engines, natural language processing, and as well as, kind of applications of those technologies. The way, for example, natural language processing goes into speech recognition technologies like Amazon or Alexa, machine translation, medical imaging, autonomous vehicles. And then in the second half, you'll be working on a mentor-led project in a domain of your choice. This is kind of just the basic sort of like what you might expect in the first half of the AI Scholars Small Group Program. So you can kind of see, like, in every day, there's kind of a new concept that we're teaching. It might be neural networks, it might be natural language processing. We would be teaching different elements of Python coding that are directly related to the concepts that we're teaching, and would explore applications of those concepts and coding practices, kind of in the context of the work that AI does. And then the second half, when students are primarily working on social good projects, that's where we're doing some college essay workshop, looking at CS and AI in college, kind of interspersed with dynamic project work that happens in the sessions. And then the final day, as I mentioned, consists primarily of project presentations. So, what I just discussed was our kind of small group program that almost all of our students start with. We also, though, have a one-on-one AI research mentoring program that's designed for students who took our AI Scholars Program or who are coming in with pretty significant experience in computer science. So in our mentoring program, students launch a custom AI passion project and write a summative scientific research paper. So it's really an opportunity to build on the foundation that you'll develop in the AI Scholars Program, while really personalizing the project and generating a final paper. The program itself consists of 10 one-hour sessions that are led by our team of top university graduates. Students really in grades 8 to 12 are invited to apply. And then, some programming experience is desired, ideally in Python, but students often come into the program with kind of, Java experience or knowing other languages. Here in the one-on-one program, I think a significant value add is just the access that we have to data sets. As you guys begin your AI research sort of learning endeavors, you'll soon discover that one of the most challenging parts of AI research is just getting the data in your hands. And that's a lot of what we're kind of offering in the one-on-one program, is access to data sets to really advance a project. And then this is a very guided experience, even though it's a student's own custom project. So we're really kind of offering support from figuring out what the topic is, to sourcing and cleaning data, to helping you feature tune a machine learning model, all the way to writing that scientific paper. A lot of students kind of use this program to try to submit a project to a science fair, to deploy a web app, or even try to publish their final research paper, for example, in like a top-tier high school science journal. Other students end up submitting to the colleges that they apply to their projects and their papers as application supplements. This is something that you'll be able to kind of check out on your own after we kind of share the slides. But we've worked with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of students to help them develop, kind of AI research projects. I'll just give you kind of a quick peek. We have sort of a project gallery of recently completed student work, where you'll be able to see kind of individual passion projects across domains, from business to education to engineering to sustainability to social justice to journalism. So really interesting stuff like molecular analysis of stellar clusters, AI and crop yield, the effect of the news on the stock market. We actually have a number of students doing projects at the intersection of AI and sports. Figuring out to what extent physiology actually predicts a volleyball player's success on the court. We had a student develop an AI-powered fencing referee that he's now commercialized and is in talks to have bought by the sort of top US fencing agency, gamma ray classification, early detection of tsunamis caused by earthquakes. It kind of goes on and on. Really, the sky is the limit when it comes to AI passion projects. So it'll be something you'll be able to kind of read a little bit more about when we share these slides with you later. So that was kind of a ton of information that I threw at you, and would love to spend kind of our remaining time on any questions that you might have, kind of about the state of AI or about some of the learning opportunities that we offer at Inspirit.
Any questions? Sorusu olan varsa Türkçe de sorabilir isterseniz.
And you can shout it out or raise your virtual hand or put a question in the chat, whatever modality you prefer.
It could be parents can ask questions or the counselors here can ask questions.
Absolutely.
We've had one of the things I heard a couple of years ago, one of the students came back and said, my God, this is unlike any type of education I've been exposed to through in Turkey. It's very interactive. It's fun. It actually helps me enjoy the subject matter. So that really meant a lot to me.
Absolutely. And I think part of it is that, this is really, it's like no stress. There are no grades. There aren't even formal homework assignments. So it's really an opportunity to learn something brand new in kind of a format that's very supportive.
Well, we have a couple hands.
I noticed, yeah.
So, Edith, do you want to go ahead and just ask your question?
So,
can you try that again? It's
I think
I don't think there's very good there's a very good connection. Do you want to try to write it down perhaps, Edith? Okay, perfect.
okay.
Edith, go ahead and write it down for us because we cannot hear you. But so I'll let somebody else ask a question. We'll come back to your question if you can write it down for us. Is that okay? So Rena, please go ahead.
Hi, Jared. Thanks for this wonderful presentation. It was very visionary for us. You mentioned about essays, just in a little paragraph.
Yes.
Are you going to share an example, or can you elaborate a bit more about the issue?
So I take it you're referring, Rena, to the time we spend on college admissions essays in our AI Scholars Program.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly.
So we basically workshop successful admissions essays, like real essays that students wrote to get admitted to places like Stanford or MIT, and kind of dissect, okay, this is what they were doing in the first paragraph, this is what they were doing in the second, by way of just offering some great pointers for students who are kind of learning to articulate their own sort of life experiences in these essays.
Okay. Thank you.
Gracie, do you want to go next? Then we'll take.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the presentation, Jared. It was really useful. The information was very useful. And from a counselor's perspective, the program seems very interesting and would add a lot of value to the students' application. And by the essay and everything that is already provided to the students, I think will be a it will add so much to not just to put it as an example of what they have done, but it will add experience on their essays in terms of the writing. Now, when it comes to, as part of the application process, there are certain times that students are asked for reference letters, not just from their teachers or from, from others that they may know them. You mentioned that the group of students are quite small, 5 to 1, 4 to 1, or something like that. Is your staff or your team able to provide students with reference letters for the students if a student were to ask for one?
Absolutely. And this happens very frequently. Students are certainly, they have the prerogative to ask mentors for letters of recommendation. Of course, it'll be at a mentor's discretion, like whether they're able to write it. But students, generally who put in a phenomenal performance are kind of begging their instructors for like extra work to do outside. I think like the better the performance a student puts in, the likelier it is that a mentor will end up writing that letter.
Perfect. Thank you.
Great question. So Gunay is next. Gunay, do you want to?
Yeah, I was actually going to ask the reference of the question that I was answered. How, like, if I missed it, are we able to like talk with the mentors whenever, like, through messages, for example, when like 12 a.m. I'm stuck on a question, can we message them?
Really good question.
Even if they want to talk?
Yeah, students have kind of access to their mentors through a piece of software that we use to kind of facilitate communication. We also offer, as part of the AI Scholars Program, what we call open labs, which is almost like a coding study hall. It's a time outside of scheduled hours for students to come in, get questions answered, and also interact with other groups and other mentors to get other sort of perspectives on their work.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Of course.
Good question. I like it when students are thinking about this level of detail. This is really great. Others, there's definitely got to be some people here. Questions? Nobody asked about costs. I'm just saying. May I ask that question? Maybe Jared can tell us.
Of course, yeah. So our AI Scholars Program is $1,100 US. And our one-on-one research program for experienced students is $2,000 US.
Okay.
And we offer, payment plans and things to kind of spread things out over time.
Do you offer that to international students as well?
Payment plans?
Yeah.
Absolutely, for sure.
Awesome. That's really good to know. Elif wrote down her question. So I'll read this, and since we'll ask you to answer, is that okay?
Absolutely.
So she says, so we're kind of trying to make the machines think for themselves, but when a time comes in the future where machines start to think independently from us, how can we prevent something like that from happening? Because of us humans are complicating and our minds are as well, but machines are organized and have access to information literally inside. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really good question. And I think this is precisely like a rich area for debate in kind of AI and ethics. I think what you're describing, Elif, is what they call the singularity, right? The moment at which like machines and robots simply displace humans as kind of like the apex predator, I suppose, of our race. I think it's unlikely to happen, but I do think that, there needs to be a space for human creativity that powers AI technology. And insofar as AI technology requires human intervention to develop it, to engineer it, to monitor it, my personal opinion is that AI and machine learning will always require human creativity to work. And that's some of the most exciting shifts that we're likely to see in industry. It's not so much like, oh man, we're all going to lose our jobs because of AI. It's more like our jobs are going to change because of what AI is transforming around us. But I love that question, Elif, and I think it's on a lot of philosophers' minds right now.
So Gunay sounds like he has another question for us.
Yeah, when you said ethics, I remember you showed like AI art and stuff. I mean, considering that's pretty widely regarded as unethical, creating art with AI. What's like your stance on that?
It's a good question. Yeah. And I think that it's like DALL-E and, ways of creating like AI artwork are so new that I'm not sure that there is kind of like a settled approach, to how to handle these issues. For example, if like you can just type into DALL-E a prompt, it generates a piece of art, and then art then gets sold. Well, who should get the money from that? Is it the AI technology? Is it the person who put in the prompt?
Because like AI art is displacing small artists from their livelihoods. I mean, it's a big ethics question, in my opinion.
And I think that's right. And it may be that like, artists, like true 21st century artists, may need to have some computer programming skill to be able to keep up with these advances that are kind of changing who is producing artwork and how. But yeah, I think these are some of the most like fascinating, like ethical issues that we end up kind of debating in the program, just because there are no right answers and the technology is developing, at a very rapid pace.
Yeah, thank you.
Other good questions? Gracie, please go ahead.
Yes, so again, going back to the counselor's perspective, I'm just looking into the different opportunities the students can get out of aside from the technical knowledge that they're obviously going to get from the program. Do you have opportunities for them, since the group is 5-to-1 or 4-to-1, do you have any opportunities for them to network with other peers that are taking the program, like an alumni network, or they take your program, like a student in 10th grade or 11th grade, and they end up applying to like Stanford, as much as since most of your tutors or instructors are from there. Is there any way that they could connect with each other? Like, do you have a system in place for them to do that?
Great question, Gracie. And I think so there are really two ways of answering it. One is, of course, during the program, there are going to be a lot of opportunities to interact with many mentors, not just their primary teacher. In the context, for example, of industry spotlight talks, where we bring in kind of guest speakers to discuss what they're doing in research labs and industry. But also after the program is over, we offer a program for scholars graduates called AI Ambassadors. It's a free program. It's an opportunity for them to meet weekly with kind of industry and academic luminaries. It's really kind of a pre-professional networking opportunity. And again, it's available to all students who kind of go through our AI Scholars program.
Thank you.
Awesome. Other questions?
I was asked by someone in the chat whether there are kind of scholarship or financial aid opportunities, and absolutely. Once you apply to the program, if you are interested in kind of our financial aid application, I'd be more than happy to share that with you. I'm actually going to leave my email address in the chat here for those of you who may want to stay in touch, and that could be parents, students, counselors, everybody. So yeah, we certainly offer like a limited number of partial financial aid awards to help offset the program fees. And if you're interested in that, just shoot me an email after you apply to the program. After this is over, Yassine can kind of make available to you application links and things, and just follow up with me if you're interested in the financial aid app.
Perfect. This is really good news for a lot of the students. Yeah, Gracie, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I tend to have lots of questions.
You can jump in. We're happy for that.
So here's another one. I don't know if maybe I missed it during your presentation, but could you briefly go over a little bit more on the application process for a student? So they send, are there any documents, any interviews, or how would a student go about applying and being accepted to the program?
Really good question. So the application is really designed to get students thinking about their interest in AI and kind of project areas that they might do later in the program. We also just ask a couple of questions about students' background in computer science to get them into the appropriate cohort. Our application process is not designed to exclude students. That's what the university application process is designed for. This is really just to get students thinking about the nature of their interest in AI and to get background information that helps us create a personalized learning experience. The way that it works is once students apply and are accepted to the program, we would then send a link for payment to the family. And then once the enrollment is finalized, we would follow up with some pre-program information closer to that student's launch date, including like suggested resources and readings to kind of orient to the first day.
Mhm.
And for those of you who may not have caught it, yeah, after this is over, Yasim can follow up with kind of application links to AI scholars and one-on-one research. So we'll make all of that available to you soon.
Elif asked, she said she couldn't catch the part about the application cost, so I just put that in. It's $1,100, I think Jared said, for the...
Yeah, our AI Scholars small group program is $1,100. Exactly. And what's done in in the college essay workshops, we really break down successful top university admissions essays to kind of look at the various rhetorical moves that the writer was making to produce a compelling essay, and then starting to work with students a little bit about, thinking of essay topics that they might be able to write sort of compelling pieces on.
Perfect. These are good questions. So we're going to help a lot of people apply. I was very excited to see Jared at this conference exactly for this reason, because it is a very good way to segue into the technology field for anyone. This is going to be a part of your job, whatever it is you do. Even in as an education professional myself, this is absolutely required for every discipline.
Absolutely. And if there are other questions, yeah, Alip, great question about criteria for student selection. Because our programs are open to beginners, coding champions, and everyone in between. If a student is passionate about working with us, of course we're going to work with students. Again, the application process, it's not really designed as like a gate to prevent you from entering. It's more to gather information from you so we can create a great learning experience during the program.
Excellent. Well, thank you. We can conclude. We're at the top of the hour with that. Really appreciate your time, and also everybody who showed up and is still here. We've lost a few folks who had to leave, and there's been really kind messages. So we thank you all for coming and joining us tonight. And so you have Jared's information, you have my information. Please follow us, Admittance Education, on Instagram or YouTube, as there's going to be announcements of events like this, so don't miss them. And we love to see you here. And thank you all for joining.
Thanks so much, everybody.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care.
You.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.